What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, retired two-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, future Hall of Famer, Showtime Shawn Porter, who is now an analyst, boxing pundit, and a host of a podcast, the Porterweight Podcast. Shawn Porter retired with 31 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw, 17 wins by way of knockout. 5'7" with a 69.5-inch arm reach. Shawn Porter is 34 years of age. Shawn Porter yesterday made headlines when he called out rising welterweight superstar title contender Jaron Boots Ennis. 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 26 big wins by way of knockout. He is 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. Shawn Porter, he called out Jaron Boots Ennis yesterday on his podcast, the Porterweight Podcast, and with Shawn Porter, he stated that Jaron Boots Ennis was overrated. Okay, so Shawn Porter, he stated that Jaron Boots Ennis is overrated, and that Jaron Boots Ennis needed to fight, some world champions before we could crown him. Okay, so this is what Shawn Porter had to say regarding Boots Ennis.
Overrated, and this is why I say he's overrated. Crazy. Everybody is so hyped up on him, but he hasn't been in the ring with any world champions. I believe that, but at the same time.
So here's the thing: Shawn Porter said that Jaron Boots Ennis hasn't been in the ring with any world champions. Well, that's false because he just beat 2 former world champions back to back in Sergey Lipinets and Thomas Delorme. And with Shawn Porter, he gave nothing but credit to Jaron Boots Ennis when he stated that Thomas Delorme was still a very good fighter. He wasn't past his prime, and it was a great win. He just was too much for Thomas Delorme, who was a former world champion. So if you view Thomas Delorme in high regards, and your last opponent that you fought in undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number 1 best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terrence Bud Crawford, 38 wins, no losses, no draws, 29 big wins by way of knockout. He's 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. So with that said, Terrence Crawford is considered the best fighter in the world. Terrence Crawford is 10 years Jaron Boots Ennis senior. And Terrence Crawford fought Thomas Delorme, and he struggled against Thomas Delorme. Now, obviously, Terrence Crawford, he won the fight against Thomas Delorme. He got to stop his victory over Thomas Delorme. But nonetheless, Terrence Crawford, he had problems with Thomas Delorme. Jaron Boots Ennis, he got Thomas Delorme out of there in 1 round. And this is the same guy that Shawn Porter gave a lot of praise to for beating. He gave a lot of praise to Boots Ennis. So, with that said, he stated that Jaron Boots Ennis was overrated. And so Jaron Boots Ennis, he responded to Shawn Porter by calling Shawn Porter out and saying that you wanted to stay far and clear away from me. You said I was too much for these fighters. You said I'm ready right now to compete with the upper echelon in the welterweight division. And as soon as you retire, I'm overrated. Why don't you come out of retirement and let's fight? Let's make it happen. And then, he stated that, it's, obviously, it's contradiction, right? And so Shawn Porter, he's responding and he's doubling down, okay? And he doubled down by saying that he meant what he said what he meant, and he stands by it. And he stated that he just fatigued with hearing all the praise Jaron Boots Ennis is getting without fighting the upper echelon. But at the same token, Shawn Porter is stating that there's only 2 fighters in the sport of boxing in the welterweight division that can beat Jaron Boots Ennis right now, and that's Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. Well, Errol Spence is going on 32 and already is well accomplished, okay? Terrence Crawford is 34 going on 35 and already a 3-division undefeated and former undisputed world champion. So if you're comparing a guy who's never fought a world champion and has never won the world title at 24 years of age to those guys and saying that those are the only 2 guys that beat Jaron Boots Ennis, well, then that's high praise for Jaron Boots Ennis in itself. So to say that he's overrated, but yet you don't feel like no other fighter in the welterweight division outside of those 2 guys who are at the pinnacle of the division, then he's not overrated. How could he be overrated if you saying that the only 2 guys that can beat him, but yet at the same token, he has an opportunity, equal opportunity to beat them just as much as they have to beat him. Well, that's high praise in itself, Shawn. That's high praise in itself. Imagine saying this. A guy comes into the NBA. There's only two guys that are better than this guy in the NBA. LeBron James and Kevin Durant. But then at the same token, he can beat those guys and they could beat him in a one-on-one. But that guy is overrated. How could he be overrated when you're saying the two best guys at the pinnacle of the sport? That's like saying Giannis coming in the league. The only two guys that can compete with Giannis Antetokounmpo are LeBron James and Kevin Durant. But he has just as much opportunity and skills to beat them. And that's the only two guys that can compete with him. But yet, at the same token, say he's overrated. That doesn't add up. That just simply doesn't add up. Okay, and so he gives Jaron Boots Ennis, he says that he has nothing but love and respect for Jaron Boots Ennis, his family, Bozy Ennis, and the approach they have to the sport of boxing. And he says that, he just wants to see Jaron Boots Ennis do it. Now, again, this is the same Shawn Porter that stated that Jaron Boots Ennis is Roy Jones Jr. 2.0, the great, legendary, iconic, Hall of Fame superstar boxer, Roy Jones Jr. You said that Jaron Boots Ennis is Roy Jones Jr. 2.0. Roy Jones, the only fighter in the history of sport that turned professional at junior middleweight and became a champion at heavyweight. The only guy. And you saying that Jaron Boots Ennis is Roy Jones 2.0. And then your rival foe and friend, former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith One-Time Thurman, compares Jaron Boots Ennis to that of Pernell Whitaker, Floyd Mayweather, and himself. And so he says we have to stop giving him credit before we actually see him in the ring with those guys. So if you're saying that only Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford can beat him in the welterweight division, that's praise in itself, and there's levels for a reason. So let me give you this example. When Floyd Mayweather, and you're saying that you got to see him in with the absolute best of the best, and that you're tired of hearing that he's going to wash this guy and he's going to wash that guy. He can go 12 rounds with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, so on and so forth. Well, there's always levels to every fighter, right? Meaning, Floyd Mayweather beat the likes of Diego Corrales, Arturo Gatti, Gennaro Hernandez, Hall of Famers, right? But does that mean that Floyd Mayweather wasn't super great or shouldn't have been praised on a high level because he hadn't beaten Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, or Miguel Cotto, or Manny Pacquiao, who are a level above those guys? You see, when Floyd Mayweather beat Juan Manuel Marquez is not considered on the level of Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, well, as how it's perceived, Manny Pacquiao, Oscar De La Hoya, and Shane Mosley, and Miguel Cotto. So when he beat those guys, he couldn't be overly praised until he actually beat the best of the best. That doesn't add up. So tomorrow, if Jaron Boots Ennis beat Virgil Ortiz and dominates him, that still don't warrant him high praise because, well, he hasn't beaten Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence. See, that doesn't add up. So if tomorrow Jaron Boots Ennis fought and beat Keith Thurman, does that garner him high praise? Because Keith Thurman has two big wins in his entire career, which is Shawn Porter and Danny Garcia. Now, Keith Thurman has some solid, credible wins outside of those two guys, but his best wins are Danny Garcia and Shawn Porter. Now you can look back at Danny Garcia's resume and you can say, well, Danny Garcia, he lost to Shawn Porter, he lost to Keith Thurman, and he lost to Errol Spence. He lost his biggest fights. And then you can look at Shawn Porter and you can say Shawn Porter lost his biggest fights. He lost to Errol Spence, he lost to Keith Thurman, he lost to Kell Brook, and he lost to Terrence Crawford. So the solid guys that Shawn Porter beat outside of Danny Garcia, right? That garnered us to look at Shawn Porter and say, well, he doesn't deserve high praise because Shawn Porter never beat those guys. See, it doesn't add up. See, now, obviously, you could give that credit to Errol Spence because he beat Kell Brook. He beat Danny Garcia. He beat Shawn Porter. Okay? And he beat Mikey Garcia. Four surefire Hall of Famers. And now he's going into a unification bout with Yordenis Ugas and was going to fight Manny Pacquiao. Well, Keith Thurman, he fought Manny Pacquiao, but he lost to Manny Pacquiao. So Shawn Porter doubles down saying that he meant what he meant and he said what he said. And then Shawn Porter, he says that Keith Thurman is a much bigger puncher than Errol Spence Jr., right? Which I could see because of the styles. And, Keith Thurman truly was that guy, and Keith Thurman catch Shawn Porter with something he didn't see. So he said that Keith Thurman is a bigger puncher than Errol Spence Jr., right? And then Keith Thurman made him see stars. But he also stated that Keith Thurman is not ready for Terrence Crawford or Errol Spence Jr., and he needs another tune-up. But obviously, if the opportunity presents itself for one of those big names, then he must take it. But he would much rather Keith Thurman go the route of not focusing on big checks, life-changing checks, but good checks. Not focusing on the big names, but focusing on the good names and getting back into the groove of things. So he stated that Keith Thurman looked good, but he didn't look great against Mario Barrios. And I concur. Keith Thurman did not look great against Mario Barrios. I don't even think he looked good against Mario Barrios. I thought he looked okay against Mario Barrios. I thought he did what he was supposed to do against Mario Barrios because he was the superior boxer. He was the superior athlete. And he's the naturally bigger guy. Okay. And Mario Barrios was coming off of a 3 knockdown, brutal knockout loss to a super featherweight in Gervonta Tank Davis, who jumped up 10 pounds and 2 weight classes to fight Mario Barrios. And he knocked out Mario Barrios. And Keith Thurman couldn't even knock Mario Barrios down, let alone knock him out. So I think that Keith Thurman, just like Shawn Porter stated, needs to focus on another tune-up fight before he goes into a Terrence Crawford Errol Spence fight. Now, obviously, I would love, as a fan, the fan in me says I want to see Keith Thurman, Terrence Crawford in July. But, if from Keith Thurman and team standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. Shawn Porter, he also stated that he has no reason to respond to Jaron Boots Ennis, right? He says, I'm going to be Shawn Porter and I was going to retire with or without Jaron Boots Ennis storyline. Okay, so he stated that, when he saw the tweets from Jaron Boots Ennis, that, his response was, this is an opportunity for me to sell my brand because the whole world is looking at my social media and his social media to see the response. So my only response was to tell everybody to go to ShawnPorter.com and buy the merchandise. Wow. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share the videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.